Should animals be granted legal personhood? Hi everyone. Today I'd like to discuss one of the most thought-provoking questions in law, in ethics, and philosophy. Should certain highly intelligent animals be granted legal personhood? Traditionally, legal systems have divided the world into two categories, persons and property. Persons possess legal rights and duties. Property, by contrast, may be owned, transferred, or controlled by others. For centuries, non-human animals have generally been classified as property, although animal welfare laws prohibit unnecessary cruelty. Recently, however, philosophers and legal scholars have begun asking whether this traditional distinction remains morally defensible. Supporters argue that at least some animals possess sophisticated cognitive abilities. Chimpanzees use tools, dolphins demonstrate self-recognition, elephants appear capable of mourning deceased family members, and certain corvids solve remarkably complex problems. These observations suggest that intelligence exists on a continuum rather than as an exclusively human characteristic. If the capacity to experience pain from social relationships or exhibit self-awareness carries moral significance, then some animals may deserve stronger legal protection than they currently receive. Another argument concerns moral consistency. Many legal systems already recognize rights for individuals who cannot assume legal responsibilities, such as infants or people with severe cognitive impairments. This suggests that legal rights do not necessarily depend upon the ability to fulfill legal obligations. Instead, they may arise from possessing morally relevant interests, including the interest in avoiding suffering or arbitrary confinement. Supporters therefore argue that highly sentient animals should receive at least certain fundamental legal protections. Some legal scholars propose a limited form of legal personhood. Under this approach, animals would not receive all the rights enjoyed by human beings. Rather, they might obtain narrowly defined legal rights, for example, protection against unnecessary captivity, exploitation, or cruel treatment. Such rights would resemble those already extended to corporations, livers, or other legal entities that possess limited legal personality without being human. However, critics argue that personhood has historically depended not only on consciousness but also on participation in legal and political communities. Human rights emerge within systems of reciprocal obligations, democratic institutions, and legal accountability. Animals cannot vote, enter contracts, testify in court, or assume legal responsibilities. Expanding legal personhood beyond humanity may therefore weaken the conceptual coherence of existing legal systems. Another concern involves practical implementation. If chimpanzee or elephants receive legal personhood, what criteria determine which species qualify? Should similar protections extend to octopuses, pigs, whales, or other cognitively sophisticated animals? Because intelligence and sentience vary continuously rather than categorically, drawing principled legal boundaries may prove extraordinarily difficult. Critics also emphasize that stronger animal welfare protections do not necessarily require recognizing animals as legal persons. Governments can prohibit cruelty, improve living conditions, and regulate scientific research without fundamentally redefining the legal concept of personhood. In my opinion, societies should continue strengthening animal welfare legislation because scientific evidence increasingly because scientific evidence increasingly demonstrates that many animals possess rich cognitive and emotional lives. However, granting full legal personhood may not be the most appropriate legal framework. A more balanced approach would recognize certain fundamental interests of highly sentient animals while preserving the distinct legal status traditionally associated with human persons. Ultimately, this debate forces us to reconsider one of philosophy's oldest questions. What characteristics make an individual worthy of legal rights? Species membership, intelligence, consciousness, or the capacity to experience suffering? As scientific knowledge continues to expand, our legal and ethical systems may also need to evolve. So here's my question. Should highly intelligent animals receive a limited form of legal personhood, or should legal rights remain reserved exclusively for human beings? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for listening. See you next time.